Let me tell you about Fire Emblem Heroes. Fire Emblem Heroes is something I was excited for. I thought it would be a great fan service thing with all of the Fire Emblem characters that people care about, and maybe some of the ones that they don't. I thought it would be a cool thing to this build this fan servicey world where everyone is there, a real crossover thing with all of them. But it's not that. You get some Fire Emblem gameplay, but you don't get much else. Fire Emblem Heroes is like going to the mall when you were a kid and your mom said she'll get you one thing from the mall and you want to go to fucking KB Toys and it's closed. You want to go to Radio Shack, but that's closed too. You go to the Sears and that's closed too. Like all the candy stores closed. You can go to fucking Macy's. That's it. They only have Macy's. That's how it feels. Like everything you were expecting, a lot of what you were expecting, what I was expecting, is just not there. It doesn't deliver. If this game was released 4 years ago, I'd say it's fine. But when I compare it to other modern mobile games, it doesn't stand up. It just doesn't. There's a lot of characters in Fire Emblem Heroes. You look at one, and they just have a summon line, which is two sentences they say to you when you get them. And at level 40, they have their 10 to 12 sentences that they say because you got them level 40. And I think they have a bit more when you max out the hero merit thing. But beyond that, there's nothing. You get these characters, they don't interact with other characters, they don't interact with the world. They're just stats and abilities. That's it. Grand Blue Fantasy is completely different. It has tons of characters, just so many characters. There's over 100 of them, and all of them have an introductory scene, which is some 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of dialogue, and a skill unlock, which is 2 to 3 episodes of, again, 3 to 5 minutes of dialogue with some fights in it where they have a personal conflict and they resolve it. The introductory episode is generally just you're doing something, you the crew is doing something, generally just you, the little girl, and the lizard. Sometimes Catalina and the others show up and you meet the character in question, and that's it. They appear, they talk to you, they join you for whatever reason. You know their reasons for joining you usually, and they join you, and that's it. That's the character. And if they go to 100, you get the start of a problem, and then later on the conclusion to that problem. All of these characters have personalities and backstories and reasons, and the game gives that to you. Fire Emblem Heroes doesn't do this shit. It just says, here's your character, and all it is just stats, abilities, and some artwork, and some voice lines. There's no, why are they here? Well, you summoned them. That's it. Why would they do what you say? There's no interaction. When you recruit a character in actual Fire Emblem games, they have a reason for joining you. You talk with them, you convince them to switch sides, or you go to a random town, convince them, or you rescue them, or whatever. There's reasons. Fire Emblem Heroes lacks that. It lacks that. It's lacking. It's awful. The story of Fire Emblem Heroes is a joke. It's just repetitive bullshit. You go to a world, they say, the people of that world say, oh no, we're fighting under duress. You fight through the battles, you free them, and that's it. There's no interaction. Even between the unique heroes characters and the characters of that world, there's no interaction. It's the same for all of these. Except for the one where you fight the girl, whatever, the Veronica. It's all just the same. It's trash. There's no interaction, there's no spirit to it. It's empty. Maybe it's unfair to compare Fire Emblem Heroes to Grand Blue Fantasy. Grand Blue Fantasy is a big budget project that with all these completely original characters that it wants to tell you about. Characters in Fire Emblem Heroes are already established in their own games, and maybe you're just expected to know them from there. So let's look at another derivative mobile game, a fan servicey thing designed to cash in on the popularity of a currently active series. Let's just start up something random and see what it is. Can look at Sword Art Online Memory Defrag. This is a game about all these stupid characters from this dumb thing, and they come in 50 different outfits, and fuck. When you start this thing up and look at the characters you've gotten, you see all these fucking characters from Sword Art Online. And you can look at the ones you've got, and you can see that as you level them up, you get these stories where they interact with other characters from Sword Art Online and say things. And these are pretty short, but there are a good number of them, and it's longer than the shit that Fire Emblem Heroes gives you. You have to stop and think that Sword Art Online has better games than Fire Emblem Heroes. It's giving you more about the characters. If you cared about fucking Sword Art Online characters, you have this. You can read about all your cute girls doing cute things in their dumb online game or whatever. Fire Emblem Heroes, you don't get shit. You don't get shit. Let's put Sword Art Online aside. Let's just keep talking about Fire Emblem Heroes. Let's talk about character identity. So Fire Emblem Heroes doesn't present any form of character identity. Let's talk about a character. I don't have any fancy graphics to show off, but let's talk about Henry from Fire Emblem Awakening. If I remember right, you're the crew, the Awakening crew at that time in the game, which was fairly early on, is camped out in this valley. I believe you got Robin and Crom and the other boys and girls, and you're surrounded by enemies. This is the pre-chapter, and into the camp strides this random guy never met before with a bunch of crows. And what does he do? He starts making bird puns. And some people really like this character. This character's likability hinges on if you enjoy his jokes or not. He's a comedic character. He's Henry. And gameplay wise, I don't remember Henry as being overly remarkable. He's not a female character, so he doesn't have a child. So he doesn't do any of that stuff. You can pair him up with someone. I don't think he's overly useful in that. I don't remember much. But his introduction and his character is memorable because of that. Even if you don't like him, you still remember it because he started making these jokes and you hated it. I personally liked it. I thought it was fairly amusing. This kind of surrealist, completely unserious guy just comes in and starts making jokes at you when you're preparing to fight in this valley filled with enemies. That stuck out to me. I'm sure it stuck out to other people, and some people hate Henry and some people don't. But you look at Henry in Fire Emblem Heroes, and there's nothing. There's nothing remarkable about him at all. He's a tanky red mage. That's it. None of his original character carried over because there's no way for it to do that. This is just an example of how lacking Fire Emblem Heroes is in this department. There's nothing there. You look at this fairly memorable side character, and there's nothing there. If you were to introduce a character like Brady, again from Awakening, Awakening is fairly. I assume that everyone has played Awakening because it's fairly popular. Brady's a healer who's a thug. He talks like a thug. He acts like a thug. He looks like a thug. He just wants to punch someone in the face. But he's a healer. How can Fire Emblem Heroes capture that? They could give him close counter and make him be slow but both tanky and have a lot of damage. So you just put him there and he counters someone, and you don't expect this. That's it. That's the only way they could do it. I'm not sure healers are even allowed to take close counter, but the only way they could communicate that his character is like this is by doing something like that, because there is no interaction. There's no story. There's no anything. It's empty. Like, imagine what it could have been. Imagine you get whatever character, and the three Fire Emblem Heroes unique lords, I don't know what the fuck to call them, have a short conversation with your character that you got, and you can view this, and it's like 3 minutes long or something, and it's just a conversation of them being here, them being in the world, and them deciding to join you, them being convinced that your cause is a good one, because you're not forcing them to with the magic stuff. That's part of the plot, right? You have to convince them because they join you because they want to, right? Imagine if that was there. And imagine if you got like both Marth and Lucina, and when you have both of them at max level, you unlock a scene where they talk to each other about stuff, or like Shirsh and Minerva have a scene, or like fucking Roy and Ellie would. I don't know, there's so many things that you could do with this game if they wanted to devote the resources to having it in the game, but they just don't. This is a fan service game that does not deliver any fan service except for just people in swimsuits, but they don't do anything in swimsuits. I don't get it. Where you put forward 3 units and then you pick the 4th from your friends or something, but they just didn't do that. The fact that you do get units from your friends lists from other players during the popularity gauntlets is a sign that they know that this is a thing, but they're just deciding not to do it. And I guess it's really not that big of a deal. It just feels kind of weird. Additionally, there's no co-op. You never directly interact in real time with another person at all, ever, which is weird. They could definitely have done some, like, you put forward 2 units, someone else puts forward 2 units, and you fight 4 AI controlled units, something like that, where you can share buffs and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. That's the fact that that's not there isn't a huge hit. It's just they could have done this. This is what the game could have been. You think about the popularity polls themselves are awful. It's always the same bracket. Generally, you can always predict the results. If there was betting on that thing, it wouldn't matter. But let's tie character popularity gauntlets back in to the fact that this game has no story. There's no story for the gauntlets. Imagine if at the start you had them like doing some sort of friendly trash talk, if that was the kind of characters that were there, or when you joined you got special dialogue with the character that you joined, so you felt like you were actually doing something with that character. You got some dialogue, and when they lost, they like apologized or got mad or whatever, something in character for them to do. And afterwards, the winner would say something, and maybe second place would say something as well. And there was some sort of lore. Like, let's go back to Grand Blue. If you play Grand Blue, during the Unite and Fight the Guild Wars, there's betting, right? Each crew is assigned to a team, and whatever team you can bet on which teams are going to have the most points. And this is an in-world thing, where in the in-universe explanation, everyone goes to this island filled with monsters, and they bet on which region of the island is going to kill the most monsters. And that's the end user's explanation for this silly betting mechanic that they have. And that doesn't exist. None of the things that happen in the game seem to happen in the game, if you know what I mean. Right? The summer season, there's just, hey, it's summer. And the three Fire Emblem Heroes characters say a few things. And the summer characters say a few things. And then at the end, that's it. There's no grand adventure. I could open up Grand Blue Fantasy and show you one of the summer events and how much stuff there is, where all of the summer characters, all of the characters that get summer outfits go on this short adventure where they do something. There's a conflict, it gets resolved, there's a boss, there's fights, there's enemies, there's all this stuff. And it's cute and it's funny and it's heartwarming and it's this sense of summer fun and adventure. And Fire Emblem Heroes, they talk about it. Characters say, we're going to have a memorable summer and take pictures or whatever the fuck bullshit was in there. But none of it actually happens. You just play through 4 maps, and at the end, it's like, all right, that's it. That's our summer fun. It's like, but you never did anything. They never do anything. They just don't do anything. It's empty. Again, back to the same point, this feeling of emptiness. And what it really comes down to is if you compare Fire Emblem Heroes to games that were released 4 years ago, let's say like Valkyrie Crusade or Brave Frontier, it's the same thing as that kind of shit. But when you take modern games, even fucking, again, Sword Art Online Memory Defrag, there's so much more that it's delivering on, that it's giving you the fans, not you the player, you the fan, that's a game made for you the fan if you fucking like Sword Art Online.